Psychological stress. Stress developed during the coronavirus pandemic and its effect on overall health. Social psychology themes discussed. Themes related to short and chronic stress developed during the pandemic. Some themes that we have discussed throughout this semester. Social cognition, self and social identity, social influence, and attitudes and persuasion. COVID-19 global pandemic overview. As most of us already know this stuff as we have just lived through it, but just to give an overall summary of why these events have caused so much stress in people's lives. A little quick timeline. January 9th of last year, the WHO announced this mysterious case of a coronavirus. January 21st was the first confirmed case here in the U.S. March 11th, the WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic, resulting in national shutdown of American businesses as we were all so much affected, whether it was our job, a family member's job, not being able to do your routine, change in everyone's stress levels was very much a change in people's lives. Some quick statistics. Overall, there were 20 million infections in the U.S. with 346,000 deaths. This is as of January 1st of this year. And as far as global cases, there were 83,832,334 with just under 2 million deaths, according to the World Health Organization. So dealing with the social cognition theme and how it relates to the stressors that were given to people from this health pandemic. Social cognition is defined as cognition in which people perceive, think about, interpret, categorize, and judge their own social behaviors and those of others. Social cognition is seen throughout societies during the health pandemic for various reasons. Mask wearing, as we all know, was a debate for whatever reason throughout this health pandemic, and this is related to and can be associated with that definition there. People perceive and think about and interpret and judge others. There's like a divide when it came to the mask wearing. And of course, social distancing, another guideline. There was a divide in the way people's social cognition functioned in relation to that. Different worldviews and empathetic concerns. Some people wanted to look out for others, and they take great pride in that. And during the pandemic, they were taking the initiative to look out for others because they had empathy. And that comes with their worldview and their social cognition. Others were less empathetic and were more selfish, thinking, hey, as long as it doesn't affect me, it might just be one sickness and I'll be fine and I'm going to continue my life carefree. So it's two different perspectives based on this social cognition theory. Different levels of stress among different social groups. Stress was a huge factor in people who were much more scared of the pandemic and its how much havoc it could possibly wreak on society. So there was much more stress there, and overall there was stress amongst everyone, especially in the beginning. So stress induced by social cognition from the pandemic, like I already mentioned, the loss of job, financial hardship. This caused great amount of stress, which in turn can be very detrimental to our health. It can actually be fatal, as we learn in the lecture about stress. Then we look at rumination. It's when you think about a stressful event repeatedly. And with the media overload that was occurring in the mass amount of information that's available to us through social media and through our smartphones. It was just could be very manipulative, brainwashing, and could just really cause a lot of stress on someone's brain. It could really take a toll, as we've seen through friends and family members, and maybe ourselves went through something similar. So also, COVID was fatal, and so is chronic stress. So people's social cognition could either help increase or decrease their stress levels based on how they interpret others and how they interpret information. Self and social identity is another theory, and it is related to this global health pandemic. It's defined as a person's sense of who they are based on their group membership. So we as people, we tend to want to be involved as groups and identify with others and have things in common. This was seen, it's always seen, and it was seen once again during this global event when it was kind of politicized, where people kind of took sides on how they viewed this pandemic, where it was kind of tough to see. The COVID-19 pandemic was largely politicized by many for various reasons, such as mask wearing, willingness to help others, which goes back to that level of empathy. Some people were stay at home to follow guidelines, and some said, we're just going to continue to throw our parties and go with the status quo. So it's a huge self and social identity issue among occurring throughout the event. So stress related to social identity. We got lack of optimism. This could create a huge amount of stress, kind of a gloom and doom mentality, which could be a result of information obtained or events that have personally affected you. You got lack of a social connection. Social connection is huge in kind of our self-esteem and our overall mental health. So stress levels shoot up when you don't have that self-connection or social connection. And then you got a lack of self-control. If you turn to things such as alcohol or bad habits, it's unhealthy, and it's only going to increase stress. So another theme, social influence. This deals with individuals are likely to change their behavior according to the climate in which they live. During the health pandemic, individuals were likely to follow the information from specific media sources that they are associated with themselves. This could cause stress due to loss of relationships with family members and friends, because you have a difference of opinion, and it's over an event like this that's so important and such a big event that it can really damage relationships. And a lot of us have seen that occur throughout this past year. Lastly, attitudes and persuasion. So this was big throughout the entirety of the event, but specifically with the last few months and the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccinations. There's been a lot of different attitudes and viewpoints on vaccinations, and people attempt to persuade, whether in news media or in regular people in our everyday lives, on whether or not they're safe, whether or not they should be used, or, just complete difference of opinion. And this causes arguments, which causes more stress. So attitudes and persuasions that deal with the vaccine rollout specifically, such as convincing and persuading an anti-vaxxer to get the vaccine, convincing an anti-vaxxer that the vaccine is safe. Some may attempt to persuade others not to take the vaccine. And these are all things that are occurring amongst our own family members and friends, close friends. So you can only imagine how much stress that may have caused us. And it's only amplified by social media and a lot of this stuff, which is, quite frankly, has been shown to be bad for our mental health, stress, anxiety, and depression as well. So a lot of this attitude and persuasion, this social theme, was seen throughout the entirety of the pandemic. So in conclusion, several social psychological themes are associated with stress receiving from this global pandemic. Social identity and influence, as well as personal attitudes and persuasion efforts, are seen. It is important to realize indicators of stress, how to manage them, which you see a picture on this slide, to kind of take each step to kind of get your stress levels under control, because without knowing how to manage your stress, it can be extremely detrimental to your health. So within taking this course and learning about these social psychological themes and how you can relate it to everyday life, and especially in a high stressful situation like this, knowing how to overcome an obstacle that could cause great stress is something that could be very beneficial